Phoenix, Arizona, 24:07 a.m. The kind of hour when the only people awake are insomniacs, shift workers, and people running from something. And Diesel Thompson sat at a corner booth in a 24-hour diner on Van Buren Street, nursing his third cup of coffee. 51 years old, and 30 years riding with the Hells Angels, and he'd learned a long time ago that sleep was overrated. Especially on nights when the ghosts wouldn't shut up, and he was about to leave when the bell above the door chimed. A woman stumbled in, and Diesel knew immediately something was very wrong. She was maybe 30, and blonde hair wild and tangled, mascara streaked down her face from crying. Her left eye was swelling shut, bruises on her arms, and in her hand, and, clutched so tight her knuckles were white, was a cell phone with a cracked screen. She looked around the diner desperately, and like she was searching for someone who could save her life. Their eyes met. And in that moment, and Diesel saw something that made every protective instinct he had roar to life. Pure, unadulterated terror. She walked straight to his booth, her whole body shaking, and, "Please," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Please, you have to help me. My son, they have my son. If I don't go back with the money in 3 hours, and they're going to kill him. Please, I don't know who else to ask. If this opening grabbed you, drop a comment saying, 'Save the boy.'" And Diesel had seen a lot in 3 decades. Bar fights that turned into wars. Brothers who didn't make it home. The inside of more jail cells than he could count. But a mother begging for her child's life. That was something different. "Set down," he said, his voice rough from years of cigarettes and hard living. "Tell me everything, and start from the beginning." The woman collapsed into the seat across from him. Her name was Natalie Brooks, and her story was the kind of nightmare that kept parents up at night. 6 months ago, Natalie's husband died. Car accident on the I-10. No life insurance, and she was left with a 6-year-old son named Carter, a mortgage she couldn't afford, and medical bills from her own cancer scare the year before. She was drowning, and that's when her neighbor, a guy named Rick Bowman, offered to help. He said he knew people who could give her a loan. No bank, no credit check. Just cash. Fast, and she was desperate. She said yes. Biggest mistake of her life. The loan was $10,000. The terms seemed reasonable at first, and pay back $12,000 over 6 months. But there was fine print she didn't see until it was too late. Miss 1 payment, and the interest doubled. Miss 2, and they owned you. Natalie missed the second payment because Carter got sick, needed emergency room care. By the time she tried to catch up, and she owed $38,000. And Rick Bowman stopped being a friendly neighbor. He became something else entirely. The threats started small. Phone calls, and notes left on her car. Then it escalated. Someone broke into her apartment while she was at work, trashed the place, left a message on her bathroom mirror in red lipstick, and, "Pay or Carter pays." Tonight, they made good on that threat. 3 men broke into her apartment at 11 p.m., grabbed Carter from his bed, and beat Natalie when she tried to stop them, and gave her an ultimatum. Bring $40,000 to an address in South Phoenix by 6 a.m., or she'd never see her son again. And, stay with me, because what Diesel does next is going to turn this diner conversation into a rescue operation that brings the entire Hells Angels Phoenix chapter into play. But before we continue, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Now let's get back to the story. And Diesel's jaw clenched as Natalie finished. "Where's this address?" She slid a piece of crumpled paper across the table. "It's a warehouse. South Phoenix, and near the train yards. But I don't have the money. I don't have anything. I'd already tried the police. They said without evidence of a kidnapping, and there's nothing they can do. They think Carter is just with his father's family." "Father's dead?" Diesel said. "Yeah, but they don't believe me, and they think I'm making this up because of a custody dispute. I'm not. Rick is my son. I saw them take him. I heard Carter screaming for me." Her voice cracked, and she started sobbing. Diesel pulled out his phone. He didn't call the police. He called someone better. "Bear, it's Diesel. I need the crew. Now." And South Phoenix situation. Kid's life on the line. On the other end, Bear's voice was instant and alert. "Where are you?" "Mel's Diner. Van Buren. 15 minutes. And Diesel looked at Natalie. "You're not going to that warehouse alone, and you're not paying them a dime. We're getting Carter back." "Who are you?" Natalie asked, and looking at his leather vest for the first time. The Hells Angels patch, the death head, the words that made most people nervous. I'm Diesel. And I promise you, and those men just made the worst mistake of their lives. The diner door opened again. This time, it wasn't fear that walked in. It was 7 Hells Angels, and leather and chrome, mean and ready. Bear was first. 6'4", 300 pounds, beard down to his chest. Then Storm, Raven, Gunner, Axel, Viper, and Smoke, and men who looked like they'd ridden straight out of a nightmare. But when Diesel told them about Carter, about Natalie, about men who'd kidnap a 6-year-old boy, and every single one of them had the same expression. Cold, lethal focus. We've got 3 hours, Diesel said. Warehouse near the train yards. At least 3 guys, and probably more. They're expecting Natalie to show up alone with cash. Instead, they're getting us. What's the play? Bear asked. Storm, and the club's strategist and former Marine, pulled out a tablet. Give me the address. Natalie did. Storm pulled up satellite images. 2 entrances, and front-loading dock and a side door. Probably guards at both. If they're smart, they've got the kid in the center of the building away from exits. And they're not that smart, Diesel said. These are loan sharks playing tough. They're used to scaring single mothers and not dealing with real problems. We're a real problem, Gunner said, cracking his knuckles. Raven, the only woman in the group and scarier than half the men, and leaned forward. Natalie, when they took Carter, did you see what they were driving? A white van. No windows in the back. License plate was muddy, and I couldn't read it. That's fine, we'll find it. Axel was already on his phone. I've got contacts at every chop shop and garage in South Phoenix. If that van's there, and I'll know in 20 minutes. If this is getting your adrenaline pumping, hit that like button right now. Diesel looked at Natalie. I need you to stay here, and we'll bring Carter back. I promise. I can't just sit here. That's my son, and if you show up, you become a hostage too. Or worse. Let us handle this, and we're good at it. Natalie looked around at these 7 intimidating men, these outlaws with their patches and scars and dangerous reputations, and she saw something she didn't expect. Honor? Bring him home? She whispered. Please, bring him home? Count on it, Bear said, and they left the diner in a roar of engines. 7 Harleys cutting through the Phoenix night. At 30:47 a.m., the city was almost empty. Perfect. They didn't need witnesses, and the warehouse was exactly what you'd expect. Abandoned, graffiti, covered, surrounded by a chain-link fence with a broken gate. One dim light over the loading dock. And parked out front, a white van with mud on the plates. There's our target, Raven said. They parked their bikes a block away and approached on foot, and Storm used thermal imaging on his phone. I'm picking up 5 heat signatures. 4 in the main room, 1 in a smaller room to the east. The small room, and that's probably Carter. Then that's where I'm going first, Diesel said. You sure? Bear asked. Kid's probably terrified. He sees 7 bikers storm in, and he's gonna think we're there to hurt him too. I go in quiet, get him safe, then you guys handle the garbage. Storm nodded. Side door. I'll pick the lock. And Diesel goes in, secures the kid. We give him 2 minutes, then we breach the front. They moved like shadows. Storm's lock picks had the side door open in 30 seconds, and Diesel slipped inside, moving through the dark warehouse with the kind of silence that only comes from years of doing things you don't talk about. And he found the room Storm had marked. The door was locked, but it was cheap, 1 solid kick, and it splintered open. Inside, in the corner, sitting on a dirty mattress, and was Carter, 6 years old, blonde hair like his mother. Face streaked with tearing Spider-Man pajamas. When he saw Diesel, this huge bearded man in leather, and he screamed. Hey, buddy, it's okay, Diesel said, holding up his hands. I'm a friend of your mom's. Natalie sent me, and I'm here to take you home. Carter's eyes went wide. Mommy, yeah, buddy, she's waiting for you. But we gotta be quiet, okay? And can you be really quiet for me? Carter nodded, still scared but hopeful. Diesel picked him up. The kid weighed almost nothing. Hold on tight and don't let go, and no matter what you hear, I've got you. That's when the shouting started. Bear and the others had breached the front. Diesel moved fast, and carrying Carter toward the side door. Behind him, he could hear the chaos, crashing, yelling. Someone screaming. The sound of bodies hitting concrete, and he got Carter outside, around the corner, away from the noise. Set him down gently. You're safe now, Carter, I promise, and nothing's going to hurt you. Carter looked up at him with those big, scared eyes. Are you a good guy or a bad guy? The question hit harder than it should have. Today, and I'm a good guy. Inside the warehouse, it was over in less than 3 minutes. Rick Bowman and his 4 associates never stood a chance, and they were tough when they were threatening women and children. But against 7 Hells Angels who knew exactly how to handle themselves. Not even close. And when Diesel walked back and carrying Carter, all 5 men were on the ground, conscious, but not going anywhere. Bear had Zip tied their hands behind their backs, and Gunner had their phones in a pile. Storm was documenting everything with his camera, and Raven was going through their wallets. Rick Bowman, she said, and holding up a driver's license. Age 39, lives in Temp, and look at this. She held up a notebook. Names, addresses, amounts owed. And this piece of garbage has been running this scam on at least 40 people. Diesel walked over to Rick, who was bleeding from a broken nose. You made a mistake, Rick, and you know what it was? Rick glared at him but didn't answer. You hurt a kid. See, there are rules even in our world. And rule number 1. You don't touch children, and ever. You can't do this. Rick spat. I'll call the cops. Have you all arrested? Diesel smiled. Please do. Let's call them right now, and you can explain why you kidnapped a 6-year-old boy. If you're feeling justice right now, drop a comment saying, not the kid. Bear pulled out his phone, but he didn't call the police. Not yet. He called someone else. Angela, it's Bear. I need you at the warehouse on South Phoenix Rail Yards.
Yeah, now.
And we've got a situation you're going to want to see. Angela Ramirez was a social worker who'd worked with the Hells Angels before, and she ran a nonprofit that helped domestic violence victims, trafficking survivors, and kids in dangerous situations. The club had donated to her organization more than once, and she trusted them. And more importantly, they trusted her. She arrived 20 minutes later, and when she saw Carter, her face went from professional to furious. Who did this? These 5, Diesel said, pointing to Rick and his crew. Loan shark operation, and kidnapped the kid to force the mother to pay a debt she didn't really owe. Angela knelt down next to Carter. Hi, sweetheart. My name is Angela, and I'm gonna make sure you get back to your mom, okay? Carter nodded. Angela stood and pulled out her phone. This time, she did call the police. But not the regular line, and she called a detective she knew personally. Someone who understood the gray areas, and someone who'd worked with the Hells Angels before and knew when to ask questions, and when to just accept the gift of solved cases. And Detective Maria Santos arrived with 2 patrol units. When she saw the scene, 5 men tied up, a kidnapped child, and 7 Hells Angels standing around, she sighed. And, Bear, we really need to stop meeting like this. Agreed? Bear said. Maria, in our defense, they started it. Maria looked at Rick Bowman. That's him. And notebook over there has everything. Names of at least 40 victims. Financial records. Threats documented. And the kid's testimony. Maria picked up the notebook and flipped through it. Her expression darkened with every page. This is racketeering, extortion, kidnapping, assault. She looked at Natalie's name. And, where's the mother? Safe, Diesel said. We'll bring her in. But the kid needs medical attention first, and therapy. This kind of trauma doesn't just go away, and Angela already had her phone out texting her team. I've got a family counselor on standby, and at a safe house if Natalie doesn't feel secure going back to her apartment, Diesel said. Rick knows where she lives. Maria nodded, and we'll station a unit outside wherever she stays, and Rick and his friends here are going to be guests of Maricopa County for a very long time. As the police loaded Rick and his crew into patrol cars, and Diesel carried Carter to his motorcycle, the kid had fallen asleep against his chest, exhausted from fear and relief. They rode back to the diner slowly. No rush, and just getting a boy back to his mother. When they pulled up, Natalie was standing outside, pacing, crying, unable to sit still. The moment she saw Carter, she ran, and Diesel handed him to her, and she collapsed to her knees, holding her son, sobbing into his hair. Thank you, she kept saying. Thank you, and thank you. Carter woke up.
Mommy.
I'm here, baby, I'm here. You're safe. Diesel stepped back, giving them space. But Natalie looked up at him, and, how can I ever repay you? You don't, Diesel said. You just take care of that kid. That's all the payment we need. Bear put a hand on Diesel's shoulder. And, yeah, you did good. We did good. The next morning, the story broke, local news ran it. Kidnapped boy rescued. And, loan shark ring exposed. The Hells Angels weren't mentioned by name, but anyone who knew. and Angela's nonprofit got flooded with calls from other victims of Rick's scam. 43 people came forward. The DA's office opened a task force, and then Rick Bowman's operation crumbled within a week. But for Diesel, the real moment came 3 days later. He got a call from an unknown number. Mr. Thompson, and this is Principal Edwards from Sunnyside Elementary. Carter Brooks is one of our students. His mother told us what you did, and we're having an assembly next week about community heroes. Carter would like you to come. Would you be willing? Diesel had been called a lot of things in his life, and criminal, outlaw, thug, dangerous, but never a hero. I don't know if that's a good idea. I'm not exactly role model material. Or Mr. Thompson, you saved a child's life, and you stood up when no one else would. That's exactly what a hero does. Carter wants to thank you. Please. Diesel thought about it. About Carter's face in that warehouse, and about Natalie's desperate plea in the diner. About the fact that for one night, he'd been the good guy. Okay, I'll be there. The assembly was surreal, and 200 elementary school kids sitting cross-legged on the gymnasium floor. Teachers lining the walls. And Diesel, this massive bearded biker in his Hell's Angels vest, and standing on stage next to a 6-year-old boy. Carter held the microphone, his small voice echoing through the gym. This is Diesel. He saved me when bad guys took me, and he was really brave. And he told me something important. He said being a good guy isn't about how you look or where you come from, and it's about what you do when someone needs help. If this moment is hitting you in the feels, smash that like and drop a comment saying, "Real heroes." The kids applauded, and some of the teachers looked uncomfortable. A man with Hell's Angels patches standing in their school. But Principal Edwards shook Diesel's hand, and, "Thank you for showing these kids that courage comes in all forms." After the assembly, Diesel sat with Carter in the hallway. "You doing okay, buddy?" "Yeah, and Mommy says I have to talk to a nice lady about my feelings. But I'm okay." "That's good. That nice lady, the therapist, she'll help. Trust me." Diesel, "And can I ask you something?" "Sure, kid." "When I asked if you were a good guy or bad guy, you said you were a good guy that day. What about other days?" Diesel smiled sadly, and, "Some days I'm not so good, Carter. I've made mistakes. Done things I'm not proud of. But I'm trying to be better. That's all any of us can do." Carter thought about that, and then he hugged Diesel. "I think you're good every day." Something in Diesel's chest cracked open. The Hell's Angels Phoenix chapter had a meeting a week later, and word had spread about what happened. About Carter. About Natalie. About how they'd taken down Rick's operation. Diesel stood at the front. "I know what we are, and we're not saints. We've done bad things, broken laws, hurt people. But the other night reminded me of something. We get to choose who we are right now. In this moment, and I'm choosing to be someone who protects kids. Who stands up for people who can't stand up for themselves. You saying we go soft." Someone called out, and I'm saying we go smart. Diesel shot back. We use what we have. Our reputation, our resources, our connections, and we make sure people like Rick Bowman don't get away with preying on families. Bear stood. "I'm with Diesel. My sister's kid got caught up with a bad crowd last year, and drugs, violence. I couldn't save him. He's in juvie now. But maybe if I'd paid attention earlier, if I'd used what we have to help instead of just watching, and things would be different. I vote we do this." One by one, hands went up, not everyone, but most. A new code was born over the next year, and the Hell's Angels Phoenix chapter became something unexpected. They still rode, still lived by their rules, still had their reputation. But they also started watching and listening. And when they heard about someone like Natalie, someone desperate and alone, they acted. They shut down 2 more loan shark operations and helped 5 families escape domestic violence situations, got 3 kids out of homes where they were being abused, and worked with Angela's nonprofit to create a silent tip line where people could report problems without fear. And Diesel. He kept in touch with Natalie and Carter, and checked in every few weeks, made sure they were okay, helped Natalie find a better job, showed up at Carter's baseball games, became against all odds, and something like family. One evening, Diesel sat on his bike outside that same diner where it all started. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, and, "My name is Jennifer. My ex-husband took my daughter. Police won't help. Someone said you might. Please." Diesel looked at the message. He could ignore it and go back to his life, mind his business. But he thought about Carter's face in that warehouse. about Natalie's desperate plea, and about a little boy who'd hugged him and called him good. He typed back, "Send me the details. We'll handle it." Because redemption isn't about erasing who you were, and it's about deciding who you're going to be today. And sometimes the most unlikely people become the fiercest protectors. And sometimes the ones society fears are the ones who stand up when everyone else walks away. And sometimes, and all it takes is one desperate mother in a diner at 3 a.m. to change everything. Diesel started his engine. The roar echoed through the night. Once, that sound meant trouble, and now, for people like Natalie and Jennifer and countless others, it meant hope was coming. Because the Hells Angels didn't just ride anymore. They protected, and that made all the difference. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. And drop a comment telling me what part hit you hardest. These are the stories that remind us heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they wear leather and chains, and that's exactly what the world needs.